in an industry which is so cost focused, how do you chart the path to have that kind of a mindset which requires inventory management from the perspective of patient, from countries' requirements? Like how do we solve problems from an humanities point of view rather than cost and profitability? How do you chart that path?
In supply chain, there are two components. You have to be either very efficient or you could be very responsive. Okay. When you are very responsive, the cost will go up. And when you are very efficient, your response time will be low. Okay. So we seek a balance. But to answer you, the best example is look at COVID, what we did. Okay. There were material delivered in the tribal areas through drones by a pharma company. I can't name because it's not right for me. So we reach out to patients and to consumers and to customers, the remote end, even if it costs more, that is the humanitarian part of it. But at the same time, we have to ensure that because of economy of scale, we keep our costs down. So we can then reach out the way you expect sometime, at least in some places.
Let us accept one part and be proud about it. India is a world pharmacy. We are already providing our services at a much competitive price than anywhere in the world. That's the first service Indian pharmaceutical is doing to the world. And we are proud about it. That is one thing. Now, the another question comes is trade-off in the price. Remember, my friend, we all are in business and this comes from the competition. Nowhere else. If I am supplying at X price, your next door neighbor is ready to supply at X minus price. And that is where you start billing about it, that how do I ensure that my shares are taken care? How do I ensure that my values are intact, my margins are intact? And remember, first, if you survive, then you can serve. And today in Indian pharmaceutical industry, we have been doing a great job, but we are under intense scrutiny in terms of compliance, and that compliance adds a lot of cost. And doing so, at times, we need to be careful. Otherwise, remember, I'm sorry to say this, but our competitors outside India, I mean other manufacturing hubs, are ready to take over. We have today highest number of US FDA approved plant outside US. Our competitor is catching up. They have already become third or fourth. So be mindful about it. So you have to be finicky about the cost, but everything you have to have a trade-off. So you don't need to be a little more emotive. I understand. We are already doing it service to farm world by having a competitive price. We have still hope to reduce further price, but beyond a point, you will reach to a rock bottom.
So firstly, may invite Mr. Libin Chako-Kurian, Assistant Editor, Indian Transport and Logistics News, to kindly come on stage and moderate this session. Warm welcome to you, sir. To join Libin, may invite Mr. Anil Damle, Senior President, Corporate Projects and Supply Chain, Bharat, Serums and Vaccines. Damle Sahib, namaskar. Warm welcome to you. Mr. Sugeet Chopra, Senior Vice President of Supply Chain Management, Strides Pharma Service. Welcome, sir. Mr. Tejas Mehta, Assistant Vice President, Head Logistics and MSS, Reliance Life Sciences. Welcome, Mr. Mehta. Good to have you here. Mr. Pradeep, Sonar, Head Cargo, Mumbai International Airport. Welcome, Sonar Sahib. Good to have you here. Mr. Alop John Vieira, Senior General Manager, Operations, Bajaj Healthcare. Warm welcome to you, sir. And finally, Mr. Vikram Khurana, Managing Partner, Sheetal Parivahan. May invite you, Khurana Sahib. Our young, capable and dependable moderator, Mr. Libin Chako-Kurian, will take over now. Thank you.
Thank you, Romy. Thank you so much for the introduction. Welcome to the business session number 2. We are going to discuss a very important topic here. How can logistics help Indian pharma companies deliver affordable medicine to the world? So what we are here discussing right now is the movement of pharmaceuticals from India to the world. Okay, maybe from a manufacturing site, just outside manufacturing site. Imagine Sheetal Parivahan reefer taking some of these pharmaceutical outside and taking it to Mumbai airport and handled by CSC, and then an aircraft of Etihad Cargo taking it to its destination. We are looking at this particular movement of pharmaceutical right now. We are not talking about more domestic right now, but we are focusing on the export of the pharmaceuticals from India. Let me mention few numbers here. Okay, India exported drugs and pharmaceuticals worth $28 billion in the financial year, the previous financial year, 23-24. That's one number, important number. The another number that I would say is this $28 billion is a 10% increase from the previous financial year. Mr. Roland Weil of Frankfurt Airport pointed out this particular number. We need to look at this growth of pharmaceutical exports from India to understand what is happening in the market right now. Okay, they're the two numbers. That's not all. We need to also look into where they are going. Okay, so US, UK, Netherlands, South Africa, and Brazil, top 5 markets. They are distributed in 4 different continents. Take a look at the distribution of the destinations of Indian pharmaceuticals. Now, that's not all. If you look into the previous financial year, 23-24, the Indian pharmaceuticals were exported to new destinations, at least 10 new countries. Again, they are distributed across these continents: Europe, Africa, South America. So, as we call, India is a pharmacy to the world, but it is getting bigger. It's becoming a bigger pharmacy to the world. But the question is it becoming a better pharmacy to the world? That's we are focusing here right now. I have a wonderful panel here with me. I have 4 shippers and an airport and a logistics company here with me right now to speak about this particular topic. I would let all my speakers introduce themselves, the company they represent, and the topic, the relation to the topic that we are discussing right now. We'll start with Anil.
Hi, I'm Anil from Bharat Serums and Vaccines Limited. I look after the entire SNOP procurements as well as the special projects. I'm associated with the company for last 15 years. Out of that, 5 years I'm handling this. Earlier, I was a CFO. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil. Sugeet.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon all. My name is Sugeet Chopra. I'm currently working as a Senior Vice President for Supply Chain and Logistics at Strides Pharma. And prior to Strides, I was the Chief Financial Officer at Fresenius Kabi, India. First thing I would also like to say is I would like to take this as an opportunity to really thank Stat Group for organizing this session and bringing together all the industry pioneers. So thank you. I think it really helps to have these stimulating discussions. A few words about my organization, Strides Pharma. It was founded in 1990. We currently do $600 million of turnover. 50% of that almost is exported to US. We have 4 plants in India and 2 plants abroad. All our 4 plants cater to international markets. And we just discussed that India is the pharmacy of the world, right? With 40% of the generic exports to US, 25% of the medicine sold in UK, 50% of the vaccines. So of course that puts inordinate pressure on all stakeholders in the value chain to help deliver on that reputation. So I will just keep my introduction short and then of course deep dive into some of the topics.
Tejas.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tejas Mehta. I am working as head of the logistics and marketing support services at Reliance Life Sciences. This happens to be the 20th year working with Reliance, practically involved with the inception. And the topic which I love is, I think, a compliment to organizer that they have chose a specific pharma and that to logistic, not anything else. So it's commendable effort. And the interest which brings me here is as Reliance always says, bring on the cost at the maximum benefit. So cost optimization is what brings me here.
Thank you. Pradeep.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pradeep. I'm the head cargo for Mayal. And in my professional journey for the last 30 years, I've been in the cargo domain. And I had the privilege of working with companies like FedEx, TNT, and Snowman Logistics. To a large extent, yeah, I've taken up this role in the last 6 months, but I think I'm in a better position to understand exactly the various touch points of the supply chain where we can eliminate certain cost wastages, ensure integrity of the temperatures required for the pharma products, and how we can facilitate a better infrastructure to meet the upcoming requirements of the industry in the times to come. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Arlof.
Yeah. My name is Arlof Vieira. I'm currently working for Bajaj Healthcare. I have previously worked with Alembic and Cipla in operations, and in supply chain, I have worked from Glenmark, Getz Pharma, Mylan, Copran, and other companies. Currently, I am here to share my experiences, whatever challenges I faced as a shipper, and whether it can help improve, and how logistics service providers can help us further take it. Because I'm sure whatever I've worked, they have done a human service to all the shippers, but maybe there's room for improvement, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Arlof. Vikram.
Yeah, hi, I am Vikram Khurana, and good afternoon, everyone. I represent a company called Sheetal Parivahan, which is started in 1988, and today we have a fleet of 600 plus trucks catering to all the major pharma companies in India for their exports to the global market. And I am, you can say, the cold chain specialist, and everybody relies on me from their initial journey, which is starting from the factory to the global market.
Thank you, Vikram. Let me start with the main question right now. Already Sugeet, for example, mentioned how important is the US market for Indian pharmaceuticals. You also know that there is a drug shortage going on in US, and who they look up to, for example, is India. So there is lot the Indian market can give to the world, a potential, a huge potential. But the problem is, when you look into the supply chain, or when you look into the entire value chain, there are different hurdles there. So we are looking at a particular hurdle, which is the supply chain. And inside supply chain, we are looking into specific gaps, which we need to fill it. So the most important question is, what is the main challenge that the Indian pharma companies face in optimizing their supply chains to maximize global logistics cost? For this, let me bring in a response from the audience first. Okay, I'm opening a poll right now. Let's have the poll. You can just scan this. I would like everybody to have their mobile phone on and scan this code and look at the question that we are raising right now, which is, what is the main challenge Indian pharma companies face in optimizing their supply chains to maximize global logistics cost? So there are different options here. There is temperature exclusion, the freight cost, the visibility, packaging, accountability. What is it? Okay. Please take your time and vote for the particular challenge that you are facing, so that my speakers can respond to it. So we have some response already coming in. We have 13 people already responded. 15 we have to go up to 25 to 30. Please, 18 we have, more, we need more. 21 we have. 25 we have, okay. 27, great. 28. Can we lock it right now? 31. Please lock the poll right now. I have 33 people, 34 actually. I have joined this poll. I have freight cost is mentioned as the most important factor influencing the supply chain right now. Okay, it's 64% of people among 36 people. Second is temperature exclusion. Then comes 8% for visibility, 6% of accountability, and packaging is 0, surprisingly, because I was talking to my speakers yesterday, and one of the most important challenge raised by the shippers was packaging. Okay, thank you so much for my team to do this poll. Thanks for that. But it's a very important indication about what our audience is thinking. Okay, let me now come to our shippers first. Anil, can you give me an idea about what are the main challenges that you face in the supply chain, and give us your response to the particular poll that we did right now?
So in the particular poll, what I observed was the freight cost, correct?
Yeah.
Which is coming like 60%.
Yeah.
Now, basically, I'm talking more for international freights,
Yeah.
So first, our belief versus in last 1 year, like a stock exchange, freight costs are going up and up or remaining constant. Now, definitely being a pharma industry, I think most of them can vouch it. In the last last week of the month or especially the last week of the quarter, all the things start where 70, 80, 90% of the sales happen. And at that time, the real thing starts, The first could be the logistics issues within the domestic, where to take from factory to our airports. Thanks to the roads, conditions, other regulated things. Being in Bharat Serum, all our life-saving products, all are having the cold chain products. So that comes first to take to airport, and from there to take to respective destinations. Cutoffs are fixed because our auditors, being Big Four and being US company, we have to observe that. But in that case, the real things comes when we determine the freight cost with a particular courier or with a particular airlines. When we talk for the airlines, even if we give the particular date and times, sometimes the freight costs differ, and I think they probably cancel or they go to somewhere else. So there being here the some of the transporters company, I will request them either to have some solution, or our request to pharma, our partners, is ultimately to get tie up and determine some sort of procedures where we can get the cost. Definitely all these are our strategic partners, whether you take the logistic companies, whether you take the airlines, whether you take the freight forwarders. But when it comes to consolidation and dispatch the things, it becomes a hurdle, and ultimately it affects the freight cost. Freight cost or any other cost we cannot pass on to customers every time. Practically it becomes difficult, and I think that is the main worry.
Okay, thank you, Anil, for those observations. Now, we were planning for the discussion for some time now. We had multiple calls, but this particular poll has changed the track a bit.
Yes.
But that's fine. We have to consider that as well. Now, let me go to Sugeet. Sugeet, Strides Pharma is based in South India. You have all your facilities there in South India, and you have outside India also. And also, what I noticed is 80% of your volume is handled by on ocean and 20% in air. Give us an idea. Also, respond to this particular panel, but also tell us what are your challenges.
Yeah, thank you again. I think the poll is very intriguing. I would have thought that temperature excursion would have come first because, again, my view and in the industry, what compliance is very important for us. We cannot simply compromise on compliance. While cost escalations happen, that there are phases, but compliance is something, it is non-negotiable, because at the end, the end customer is a patient, and in many cases, a critically and a chronically ill patient. So that is something that we cannot absolutely compromise. What we do at Strides Pharma is that, of course, especially temperature monitoring excursions is a risk. So we have worked with a liner. It only costs us $30 per container to have a real-time monitoring. One more anecdotal incident I will tell you, that just last week, we had a 1-degree excursion. So the data logger showed 26 degrees. The challenge is we could not release the product for 4 weeks. And just for the benefit of the audience, every product that goes into Europe needs to be locally tested. There's a retesting that needs to be happen, and it needs to be released for the market by a qualified person. So it took us 4 weeks just to explain and go back and forth on a corrective and CAPA, as we call it, corrective and a preventive action. So in this case, you look at cost of non-compliance for us, right? So that is why when choosing the freight provider, we have to look at the total cost of ownership. It's not only the price aspect that we consider. Second thing that I would say is, in the supply chain within the pharma industry, there are a couple of other facets, right? Depending on, while compliance being the base, there is efficiency and there is responsiveness. Of course, depending on what particular products the pharma company is targeting, you have products where the margins are razor thin, right? You simply cannot afford air freight. If you do it, you are losing money. And with the escalations that happen, sometimes you're not left with any options. So cost in that case becomes very important for us. It also happens sometimes as there are indirect costs involved. Now, let's see what's happening with sea, specifically the Red Sea crisis that has taken. The lead times have gone up by an additional 3 weeks. So how do we mitigate for that? We keep 3 weeks, 4 weeks of additional inventory but that also causes the inventory holding costs to go up. What this crisis also causes us is that the rerouting of vessels that is taking place. So correspondingly, the capacity that is not available, right? We don't have enough capacity also available in the sea. So combination of, I would say, of course, compliance comes first, at least the way we see it. Then there is, of course, efficiency. You need to be efficient you have to be cost effective. And then responsiveness with regard to lead times, specifically with regard to US industry. You have period of drug shortages. And on some occasions, they only last for 2 to 3 weeks when your competitor is out of stock. So you have to maximize, and in that case, your lead times become very important. Then I would also add one more thing is that specifically in the responsiveness spectrum, you have one-time buys, OTBs, you have seasonality, you have failure to supply risks. So for all that, it's very critical, even if the product gets released on the last day of the quarter, as my colleague said, but we have to ensure that on the fourth day or third day, it's in our warehouse in US or export market. So again, these are some of the challenges that we currently face, and of course are trying to mitigate that together with support of industry partners.
Sugeet, thank you so much for that observations. You specifically pointed out temperature exclusion, compliance, but you also mentioned about taking ownership and responsibility. Thanks for that. We'll come back on that. Let me go to Tejas. Tejas, you are somebody who took initiative in some of our discussions. Thanks for that. Tell me about your challenges.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I think two speakers have told the problems, I will tell you my real life problem, what happened. One fine afternoon after lunch, I'm sitting in my cabin and my head of marketing comes and says, Tejas, we have a scenario in one of our Latin market. We have reduced the price of a product by 35%. Of course, our volume will go by 3 to 4 times. I want you to work on a cost so that bottom line doesn't get affected for Reliance Life Sciences. I think this is a problem everybody would have faced. Forget about anything else. So he comes and said, let's work out a plan. I said, I am the Hanuman. I need to bring the Sanjeevani. That's it. So here, what we will think as a head of the operation, call my CHA, talk to airlines, reduce the per kg cost. That's the first reaction. Am I right in saying this?
Yeah.
That's the first reaction all of us will be into. Talk to our CHA, talk to airline, bring down the cost. Is it the solution? To me, it's no. We are one of the facilitator, please remember. And I have practiced one thing is, involve all the stakeholders. I think I have seen the poll and I'm sorry to say, I'm a little disappointed to say that packaging is the last solution. But probably we are not worried about it. The first thing, what I did was, I called multiple stakeholders. I called my FGC, I called my procurement, I called my finance, and I called my packaging team. Is there any way for one palletized cargo, I am sending 100 units, can you work to make it 130, 120, 20 or 30% higher cargo accommodated in the same pallet? Can you work on it? Second important part is, you are expected to send this in 2 to 8 degree. This situation is going to after 6 months. Can you put a validation study and find out that can it go in 15, 25? Third important part is the destination country. I'm sorry to disclose it. It's Bolivia. La Paz is the airport which I'm supposed to. I talk to my CH and say that, can I send it to Viru Viru? That is another airport which is available in the country. If I send, rates are much better. I have to reduce the cost. So I will reduce not at any cost, but I will work within the system which is available. Do I find another solution? And most important part is, do I get a predetermined schedule? If I get a 6-month schedule with volume, I will work on the cost. So my only suggestion is, all of us will keep talking about problems which we have. I am sure all of us sitting here in much better position what we were 10 years before. We had no scenario monitoring the temperature, data loggers were in the nascent phase, and so many things have gone up. My only suggestion is, whenever the issue of cost comes or a problem comes, 2 solutions are going to help all of us. One is being proactive and be collaborative. These 2 things, if you can work on, I am very sure problems all of us will talk. Solution will be part of within us only. But it will take courage, and most important part is to put our neck out. That yes, I am taking the responsibility, I may fail, but I still want to take it and go after it. So I feel not the only per kg days are gone when you talk about per kg cost reduction of our cargo cost. I saw 68% respondents saying about the cargo cost is the most, it is the cost, I understand that. But look at, instead of 100, 130 goes, your cost come down. I think one of our colleague and supplier I met in the tea break, we are working with them to improvise our packaging in such a way that our cost becomes 30% of what it is today. So I feel all these other solutions, if we start working, apart from our problems are there. I think all of our colleagues have spoken what problems we have. Our operators of the airport has spoken about, airlines is there. Our airport operations people are much better helping us today. I'm honest enough, not is that is sitting next to me. They have been very kind to us in managing the show. But I personally feel instead of going around, if you can focus on what you can deliver, that's going to make a difference and reduce the cost.
Okay.
Maybe we can discuss further when our opportunity comes.
Tejas, thanks for that. You went directly into the core of what we are discussing right now, which is about reducing the cost so that your company can offer affordable medicines to the world. Thanks for mentioning that. I also want to mention that maybe because of the composition of our audience is reason for the outcome of our polls. One more thing is that we don't have a forwarder on this panel right now. I know there are many in the audience. So maybe during the audience interaction, I would like to have some of the views coming from the freight forwarders segment as well. Let me go to Arlov. Arlov, you are somebody who raised number of, you keep sending me messages in terms of what are your challenges. Even in the midnight you are sending, I want to talk about this challenge, for example. Please, let us.
Before Levin, I answer you, I just saw the poll and I am not surprised with that. Though I don't agree to it, but I'm not surprised. It proves that we are all Indians, Now, why do I say that? Cost. हम सब cost बहुत, it's always the highest priority. And we have to compete with China. So cost has to be highest, but equivalent to in pharma, if it is anything equivalent to cost, is our regulatory compliance. So I think regulatory compliance has to be given an equal weightage as much as cost. We can't compromise regulatory compliance against the cost. So cost we have to look at, but regulate. Now I'll give you a couple of examples, at least two specific, where, people, I think earlier session people talked about temperature excursions and so many things. And just to take up from when Anil said that zyada karke sale last 7 days mein hai. I have not understood in Indian companies why last 7 days maximum sale happens and 3 weeks very low sales happen. And my MD used to always joke, itna production hota hai kya 7 din mein? 3 hafte mein kuch nahi hota hai. So this is the normal phenomena in Indian companies. And I think the reason why we do is we are monitoring monthly targets. Vis-a-vis multinationals, they are monitoring weekly. So there's an even spread. And why I'm bringing this point is, when you do weekly monitoring, the dispatches are even, the load on the service providers, availability of reefer containers, availability of trucks all get even. And it is much better service they can provide. Last 7 days, most of the slips happen in temperature excursion or any reefer container, kuch bhi ho, you will see in the last quarter of the month, half yearly, March में सबसे ज़्यादा excursion होगा. Why? Because there's a pressure on the system. Okay. Now, why I say temperature excursion? I specifically remember one example which was for the US customer, and I think I discussed in the earlier also that the excursion happened not in the cargo hold, not in the airlines, it happened on the Tarmac. अब airlines को लिखे तो flat जवाब हमारे यहाँ कुछ नहीं हुआ है. Go to airport authorities, all perfect. अब Tarmac, how to control? I'm talking of Indian airports. So, who is owner of that Tarmac? At least, if something happens, we put thermal blankets, but still there's an excursion. We have to justify to the US customer. And US customers, let me be very honest, they are just cutthroat, plain, simple. There is no emotion involved with them. They say, prove to us that this product is okay or not okay. We had to give a lot of stability studies, accessibility stability studies, and then say that it is still okay. We had to, lot of data we had to submit. But point I'm making is, who is the owner? And this is what I want to provide it to all the freight forwarders, shippers, airlines, everybody. I was just asking, audience mein kaun zyada hai? Shippers saying ki logistics service, very happy that most of them. So how do we tackle this? Levin, is this something I want to open to everybody, Something happens on the tarmac in Indian airports. How to handle it? That's one part. Second example I would like to give is, we had a recall from US. And let me tell you, it was a nightmarish experience for us. RBI clearance, DCGI clearance, local FDA, legal paperwork, documentation. We were sweating and fretting how to get it back. Okay. Now, there should be a very clear-cut guidelines, whether from a government, whether from a FDA or something. 1, 2, 3, 4 checklist. Do this and you can bring it. But I don't know how many of you all have handled the reverse logistic, getting the goods, and that too from US. It's a nightmarish experience. Okay, and if it gets stuck somewhere for clearance, means you are dead. Okay, so these are the two things I like to throw open, to the people at large. If somebody can,
Okay, thank you so much, Arlov, for specifying and giving examples. So we heard from all the shippers right now. I will go to Pradeep now. Before that, if you notice, there are some common elements in what the shippers are mentioning right now. Sugeet talk about taking ownership. Tejas talking about being proactive, and Arlov talking about the responsibility and who will take the ownership. This is exactly what my theme is. Okay, if you see, my theme is building ownership culture. Thanks for pointing out that. Now, let me go to Pradeep. I know we have listed questions, but Pradeep, are we taking that responsibility, all the logistics companies or the service providers, airports or airlines, really taking that ownership in terms of maintaining the safety and efficacy of these pharmaceutical goods that these companies are moving?
I think a very important dimension that has come up in this discussion, and I think the polls that we see, which talks about the temperature excursions in terms of percentage being very less or minimal. But the fact remains that it exists and it needs to be addressed. Now, the integrity of the product temperature is not something which is, okay, I have a facility, I facilitate maybe with the infrastructure perspective, I'm having a facility to take care of the temperature, there is a temperature monitoring in place. But between all the miles, whether it is the first mile, middle mile or the last mile of the cargo journey of the finished products, the touch points through which it is passing through, are these people equally sensitized to understand what precautions should be taken to minimize the exposure so that the temperature excursions can be avoided? That's number one. For me, it is simple that when the vehicle comes and it is placed at the dock of the temperature controlled warehouse, we check the temperature of the vehicle. But we are not sure what is the product temperature there. So I do not know what are the temperature abuses that has happened to that particular product over. So the vehicle might be reflecting, okay, it's about 5 degrees. But I do not know what the product is sitting at, what temperature over there. Now this definitely calls attention towards, is the present packaging solution sufficient enough or capable enough to withstand that entire journey, be it the first mile, then the recycling or the refilling of the gel pack or a dry ice, whatever it is. But today, I think if the life cycle of the product packaging is about, let's say, 48 hours or 72 hours, there definitely exists a need to increase it furthermore. Why? Because you are in an uncertainty of this entire logistics chain, which is very volatile. You do not know what is happening at the last end, that the at the destination, whether the shipment is staying there for 1 day, 2 days, somebody is attending it in terms of recycling the packaging to ensure that the integrity is maintained or not. These are the areas. But I think it's a long journey that people have come up in terms of the excursion percentage today. What we see, the numbers which reflected in the poll is not something. These are the experiences on the ground. Probably we may not have right mix of the audiences here, but I'm talking about people who are involved in all the legs. But when you get to see that, whether freight cost, is that the element alone which is eating up today? Or is it time for us to look beyond the per kg cost and to see why the entire logistics cost has gone up? Is it because am I sourcing more inventory? I'm building up more additional stocks because I have uncertainty in the sea freight. I have to meet up the order of my customer, well in time or before time. And is it that eating up your bandwidth of the cost again? So, thanks to this poll, it has brought up a need to look into different dimensions as well. But from a airport perspective, let me assure you, I think the EV that we all saw, in terms of the infrastructure that we have, the processes in place, the technology in place, or the scale which is available at Mial Airport in terms of accommodating the volumes, the surge definitely has not played any impact on the operations of MEAL, and people can witness it. I think those small percentage of the excursions are happening are possibly due to things which are beyond control in terms of either cancellation of a flight or upgradation of a flight or a degradation of a flight. And I think to accommodate that, the facility what we have is capable enough to take storage in advance of these temperature controlled shipments, and which we have been doing it. Obviously, it should not be utilized from a storage perspective because that's not meant for a warehouse storage aspect. It's an operation facility where the door has to open empty number of times. So one should be cognizant of that as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that response, direct response to some of the concerns raised by the shippers. Let me go to Vikram. Vikram, you are somebody who handles this pharma from the manufacturing facilities till the airport, for example, and beyond. And you deal with both shippers and the airports. Give us an idea about how you can respond to some of the concerns raised here.
I have, on the contrary, I'll say all my customers are here today and on the same platform, and I have been connected with everybody in this panel. And I have heard a statement made by Mr. Jani, there is life in every box we carry. And trust me, handling a fleet of 450 truckloads of pharma and doing 25,000 trips in a year, it's not an easy task, and you need a massive army to handle it. And I have a team of dedicated professionals who have been given an access to the the data monitoring, the temperature, to read the loggers, and there is a GDP training which has been imparted to everybody in my organization. Whoever, whether he is an accountant, he also has to go for that. So what we have seen is as compared to 10 years back and now, the excursion percentage have reduced. And what I have seen is the percentage of failures where it is basically 1 or 2% where your truck has met with an accident or something on a highway because we have to deal with the cargo on the road. So this is where you have an excursion to an extent, but basically if we consider the journey from the plant till the airport or the seaport, the performance is up to the mark, and I don't have any issues whereby my customers have came and said that there is various amount of deviations in it.
Okay, thanks for that, Vikram. There are a few things that we have discussed also in the past. Is there a shortage of reefer vehicles in India to carry the amount of pharmaceuticals that we have to get export from India?
No, to an extent, in my company, what we feel is today, if you have an X amount of shipment which are going to the US and the European market, we work on a capacity of express time. We keep on expanding our fleet every now and then, considering the statistics and everything of last 5 years, and we keep on expanding. There is the facility available, but the only thing is there are people who want to think it's going to be a cost. So there are few, I'll say, there are passive solutions, there are active solutions which are available, and there are there was a time when Enviro was in a great demand. Slowly and gradually, the percentage has declined, or there are various combinations which are available in that. Now the thing is, it's the strategy which the company has to decide, how stringent we have to be with the quality norms, whether we are carrying the shipment to the US and the European market.
Yeah, okay.
Trucks are available.
Okay, thank you, Vikram. Let me go to Anil. So there are a few things I would like to ask. One that we discussed is about the month end or the close to the quarter. There is a rush of heavy load of pharmaceuticals coming in. How you handle that? That's first. Okay, there are a few things that will not be in your control. For example, the Red Sea issue. Okay, how you handle such situations? Give us an idea about it. And in that situations, how we can optimize the cost.
As we mentioned, this is a peculiar issue. Now, what we have done is that we are, especially after COVID, the supply chain has become absolutely prominent, and it has become backbone also. So I also observe that whenever the things are delivered in time, it is our duty, supply chains. But when something goes wrong, we are wholly responsible. So what we have done is, we have done the analysis of all our international as well as domestic markets where the demand comes in line. For example, now snake bite. Snake bite comes maximum during the monsoon when the farmers go to the paddy from the month of May and June till September. So at that time, when the snakes bite, the product has to be made available within 3 hours. If it is not available, whatever we talk, whatever we discuss the boardroom, it is of no use because ultimately the farmer dies, So we have done the full analysis by product or therapeutic uses. Accordingly, we have decided to keep the inventory despite whether the orders are there or not, because most of the products are having a lifespan of like 3 years and 4 years. The second thing is also we have reached out to all our field staff throughout the countries where they were accustomed of getting the orders at month end. Actually, on one hand, we say it's a life for our products, and on other hand, everything comes at the fag end is also as a habitual, the Indian habitual, generally, I say very particularly. So those things have been changed, and in last 2 years, we arranged the special training programs. The third thing, being ex-finance, we also know the carrying cost of inventory, which includes, slow moving, non-moving, insurance, freight cost. So on one hand, we want to keep a tab on that, and other hand, the availability of product, right time, right quality is also very critical, So this, the latest generation, especially of supply chains, they're really working good based on various technologies, various parameters. We are having interactions with various other pharmaceuticals, and we are trying to evolve certain standards where we do not get shortage. The classical case, yesterday, if you see Tunisia, all of a sudden, the Prime Minister of Tunisia declared the emergency, stating that they need rabies, the dog bite rabies, in immediate time, probably by first week of September. If you see, there is a big article. Now, we are one of the major suppliers of the rabies. Now, all of a sudden, you cannot get plasma, which comes from the horses, We are ready with a particular plasma. The second thing is a production. Third thing is the government approvals like CDL and other slab. Immediately, we have started working. Even though we work day and night, it takes time because quality has to be pretended. But still, we are hoping to supply something in September. Because when the epidemics come, it has to be served immediately. We cannot talk like after 2 months and 3 months. So I think we are getting geared up. Probably COVID also has played a very important role. So on one hand, we are getting huge imports, especially from Chinese. And on the other hand, we are also having these life-saving drugs, and that's why the criticalities. So I think certain lessons have been learned, especially in COVID. And I think we have learned a lot. We are getting geared up for that. Still, the practical difficulties comes, which ranges and which can come from any corner, ranging from India till international. So I think that's what we are getting geared up.
Okay. Thank you, Anil. So we were hearing some compliance challenges from the shipper's side, but Anil, you gave some thanks for talking about what is happening at your company and how we are solving some of these things, like by having trainings and the proactiveness that you show. Let me open this panel to audience, because my panel members already told me they don't want to hear more questions from me. They want to hear more from the audience. Okay, I would like to have an interaction from the audience for next 10, 12 minutes. We'll have, we are opening it for the audience. Please stand up and raise your questions. Thank you.
My name is Pradeep Agarwal, and I'm an exporter of pharmaceuticals. The company name is The Health International. This question is for the first panelist. So in an industry which is so cost focused, how do you chart the path to have that kind of a mindset which requires inventory management from the perspective of patient, from countries' requirements? Like how do we solve problems from an humanities point of view rather than cost and profitability? How do you chart that path?
So what I understand, basically we are talking from the total cost concepts and as well as the delivery. Actually, even though we are discussing here the logistics things, ultimately cost comes also from material cost and other various parameters, like packing material, primary, secondary, tertiary, labor overhead. Now, one of the factor which I learned in last 2 or 3 years is if we collaborate with some of the like-minded people in the industry, it helps a lot. Just to clarify, now if you talk about our particular industry, our raw materials are peculiar, which ranges from urine, which ranges from horse plasma, which ranges from blood plasma. For us, even though we are experts into this, it is not practical for us to go to each and every destination and talk vendors by vendors. So what we have decided is that we will decide the partners with whom we will have our regular strategic partners where it will have win-win position. They will be comfortable with us, we will be comfortable with them, and they will specialize in the things in which they are, which ultimately will help us to get the proper quality also, all compliances also, and the cost also. At the same time, at the front end, where the real exports happen or the end users happen, we are working on various things like, as we discussed, about the logistics, about the packaging, the designing, which is really critical because ultimately it should last long, and most of our products are having the specific temperature conditions. So I think this, if we combine these two together, it helps somewhere to reduce the cost, at the same time to make the product available with quality, with all the compliances. Because ultimately Indian pharma is really doing well, but at the same time you must have seen there were some black spots where all of a sudden the noise level had gone up against few of the Indian pharma strategies. So I think one of the thing is having good coalition with the respective people to whom we are telling, you are expert into this area, you should do best and you should help us. Where we sit in advance, we enter into an agreement, we discuss what could be the minimum commitments, and then we go ahead. I think with this, probably this will help us to become bigger, and ultimately it will help all pharma companies make bigger. This is what my answer. I hope I am clear.
Can I add?
Yeah.
Can I add something? Yeah, I to understand your question is cost versus humanities. That's what you are saying, right? Now, in supply chain, there are two components. You have to be either very efficient or you could be very responsive. Okay, when you are very responsive, the cost will go up. And when you are very efficient, your response time will be low. Okay. So we seek a balance. But to answer you, the best example is look at COVID, what we did. Okay. There were material delivered in the tribal areas through drones by a pharma company. I can't name because it's not right for me. So we reach out to patients and to consumers and to customers, the remote end, even if it costs more, that is the humanitarian part of it. But at the same time, we have to ensure that because of economy of scale, we keep our costs down. So we can then reach out the way you expect sometime, at least in some places. Yeah, that's.
I think
Yeah.
Sugeet also wanted to.
Yeah, I just wanted to just touch base a little bit. Of course, there's a cost element, and you talked about culture, right? That has to be the inherent DNA of the organization, that I will not compromise on compliance no matter what be, even if it hits the bottom line. I know it's easier to say than once you're in a boardroom where everyone is talking about margins, where every quarter your stock price is looked at, your numbers are looked at, the minutest detail. But just on the cost, that just one element that I would like to raise, because there's also a lot about affordability, asking the audience, especially with regard to sea freight, the cost of containers has gone up almost 3x, right? While air freight has gone up 50%, 60%, but there's a 300% increase that we see in the cost of sea freight. So what I would like to ask is, how much of it is artificial, where of course liners want to make more money, and how much of it is actually driven? And I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. And one just final add-on to that, the big challenge is that while we talk about collaboration, right? Collaboration is very important here. The trend that I am noticing, again, might be subjective, and you can correct me here, is that everyone wants to make money. So liners say that if the prices go up, we are not going to honor the contracts. Now, if you look at the contracts, they have 4 sets of surcharges. There's a transit disruption surcharge, there's a peak season surcharge, there's an emergency season surcharge. So even if the base freight, you agree on a contract, you still might end up paying 2x. Of course, you ensure the availability. So what I'm saying is that partnership, right, is the need of the hour. And liners, on the contrary, say when after COVID, the rates actually nosedived, the pharma companies are not holier than the cow. They asked to reopen the contracts. They did not honor the contracts. So larger point is, where is that collaboration? While we all acknowledge it's needed, on the ground, I see there's a bit of a challenge, right? We are going slightly in the different direction. Everyone is transactional. Maybe some comments on that.
Can I add something into this? I think it's a fantastic point you raised, the humanity and the cost. Let us accept one part and be proud about it. India is a world pharmacy. We are already providing our services at a much competitive price than anywhere in the world. That's the first service Indian pharmaceutical is doing to the world, and we are proud about it. That is one thing. Now, the another question comes is trade-off in the price. Remember, my friend, we all are in business, and this comes from the competition, nowhere else. If I am supplying at X price, your next door neighbor is ready to supply at X minus price, and that is where you start billing about it. That how do I ensure that my shares are taken care? How do I ensure that my values are intact, my margins are intact? And remember, first, if you survive, then you can serve. And today in Indian pharmaceutical industry, we have been doing a great job, but we are under intense scrutiny in terms of compliance, and that compliance adds a lot of cost. And doing so, at times, we need to be careful. Otherwise, remember, I'm sorry to say this, but our competitors outside India, I mean other manufacturing hubs, are ready to take over. We have today highest number of US FDA approved plant outside US. Our competitor is catching up. They have already become third or fourth. So be mindful about it. So you have to be finicky about the cost, but everything you have to have a trade-off. So you don't need to be a little more emotive. I understand. We are already doing it service to farm world by having a competitive price. We have still hope to reduce further price, but beyond a point, you will reach to a rock bottom. I'm sorry being blunt on entire discussion.
So this is Sanjeev Madavi from Kali Logistics. My question is about using India as an export hub when we consider the global practices around sustainability, ESG, and of course a circular economy, using recyclable material and so on and so forth. That and its impact on, as you rightly said, the panel's discussion around cost, viability, and optimization. How do you see those three parameters interact together?
Yeah. I think you raised a very important point of sustainability because we didn't speak much on that point, but I have seen numerous approaches being taken by many service providers, logistic service providers moving towards sustainability. And I've read many articles where, not only because of the circular economy, but a lot of recycled pallets and recycled materials, packaging material to be recycled. This is then to reduce the carbon footprints, to bring in electric vehicles and all that thing. So low emission fuels like liquid hydrogen or maybe LNGs and all. So this is all helping us towards, sustainability. And I think I was very impressed recently on 28th June at one of the forum. I won't name the logistics service provider. Very nice targets they have put for themselves. I was really, really impressed. And if you permit me, I can have written down those just for the benefit of everybody, how logistics service provider can go ahead on this front, And I won't name the company because it will not be very good on my part, but really impressive sustainability targets for logistics service providers because most of them are here. And I won't name who it is. They say carbon neutral by 2040. Sustainability focus on three pillars: decarbonization, green infrastructure, circularity within our operations. Then net zero electricity consumption by 2026. Employ 100% recycled pallets packaging by 2028. Electric vehicles, LNG, hydrogen from introduction to 70% usage by 2030. So 70% will be all electric vehicle, liquid nitrogen. And last but not the least, reduce resource dependence and minimize waste. I don't want to name the company, but really impressive. And if they achieve this target, this is what all logistics service providers really to move so that we can help not only Indian pharma companies, but Indian economy as a whole. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Can somebody bring a mic here, please?
I want to say with complete qualification, I'm not an airline, I'm not a shipping line, and I'm not in that business. But as an outside since 50 years, as part of the EXIM trade, we're talking about freight cost. And then it's demand and supply, right? And what is demand and what is supply? There was a time, and I used to raise this, the shipper used to get money back to move that cargo paying zero freight. There was a time, I'm sure all of you are aware, right? The shipping line would give you $25, $30 and take your cargo free. Now we have seen that good time, right? Now we are seeing bad time. What is worst has happened in my mind into the freight cost, it's become very speculative. So we are not able to predict And I think so collectively what we need to do is, with the carrier, with the user, all of us as a stakeholder, get the speculation out of the place. But when you see speculation, the problem happens is corruption.
Yeah.
Right? Because you will always feel fooled. Whether you're paid 180 rupees, is it right or no? Until somebody calls you, no, I paid 160. The immediate what happens, you have a doubt on your partner. Did he make money in between? Now, that's a very bad situation for the ecosystem. And I think so, whatever, because, someone questioned what is the real cost, right? Now, if you go real cost, what to know, as an airline, I can give you small numbers. 48% airlines cost is fuel, right? Which is not in their control. 22% their cost goes on salary. The airline operates in 2.5% margin, which can go anything wrong, right? So please understand, we have to be sensitive when we are part of the ecosystem. But I think so, as a customer, it is fair to ask not to have speculation. The spot rate business is bad for the service provider and for the service user. Because service provider, they may see $200 billion profit today. But let me tell you, come now, another 3 to 4 years, the prediction is shipping line will go in red. Okay? The container rates already started going down. The ships rates have gone down. So it's a demand supply. Yeah. Let's collectively move speculation out of it. Then at least we know that, okay, it's going to cost 400 rupees. So I think that's what we need to keep in mind. Secondly, your question was, who is responsible on the tarmac?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, you are giving cargo to a carrier. As far as you are concerned, the carrier is responsible. I'm going very legally, right? The carrier in back office has different, contracts with different people, right? With the cargo handler, with the ground handler, with the airport. And during that, the airline probably would go back. So my advice as a shipper is to you that you have to put a claim on the airline. Let airline respond. Because airline, you are not my customer.
No, but you are right.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah,
you are not my customer when you give me cargo at my terminal, technically. Because ABC airline told you to come to my terminal, my contract is with the ABC terminal. Right? So even if I admit my mistake and I want to sign a check to you, I cannot. So understand this is a complex legal, because what happened, nobody understand, unfortunately, in our logistic field about liability. Every time a forwarder's man or an airline man sign that airway bill which they give it to you, they're signing on a death warrant. Every time you get a bill of lading, he's signing the liability of that cargo. So we have to understand how the legal aspect works. So you don't have this then question.
No.
Sorry about this.
No. I'll you took it other way. I'm
second.
talking from a regulatory perspective, writing CAPA to the US customer. He's not going to be happy saying that.
No, nobody's going to be happy.
No, in the sense we have to justify how the temperature went off and what to do, how to prevent it in the future.
Sir, let me tell you, you're talking about US.
Yeah.
If you go, and it's not fair, name.
Yeah.
But I will not send my cargo to JFK Cargo Complex.
Okay.
Have you seen when your farmer goes there? Right? So let's not talk about it. I mean,
no, but it's something
it's
we
a
have to
commercial relationship.
deal with it. Yeah.
The point is, we are talking legal aspect.
Yeah.
Legally, it is the cargo you given to a
Easy
carrier.
legally, but technically, how do we solve it? CAPA is technical.
Correct. No, CAPA is with the airline. Airline is supposed to answer you.
But airline is saying, I have not loaded into the airline. It is on the tarmac. I have not put it in my
Correct,
airline.
but you have given cargo to the airline.
Handed over to the airline.
Your airway bill contractual is the airline. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Sorry,
No,
sorry
it's
about
okay.
this.
No, that's good.
Thank you so much, Jani sir. Thank you so much for that. We are time is up.
Okay.
What I will do is I
Sorry.
will give all my speakers 30 seconds of time to give their closing remarks, and you can quickly respond to these comments as well. I will start with Vikram first, and then go to everybody.
I'm pretty happy that India is the third largest exporter of pharma, and we guys are growing gradually. And we guys are moving ahead with the international norms as well as exporting it to the global trends. What is available in the US, we have the same facilities and infrastructure available here in India. And Mumbai is doing pretty good, and I'm happy with the services provided by Meal and CSC to me. And I'm pretty good.
Pradeep, your final closing remarks.
I think need of the hour is basically how do you optimize in terms of reducing the cost. So one element I mentioned about how do you eliminate the cost wastages, which is possibly to an extent the demurrage part of it, the efficient clearance, and maybe it has a regulatory aspect, dependency on the cargo arrival, whether it's part or full. That's one of the thing. And the second piece of the integrity of the product temperature, which we mentioned, is about the piece of education to the people across all the stages of the supply chain, which has to be a continuous. So it's more of a quality-driven engagement culture that needs to be driven.
Yeah, Arlaf.
Actually, look at supply chain cost as a whole. Logistic cost may be 8 or 9%. I think let's look at, there is a material cost, there is a lot of things we can save there, but let's not compromise here as it compromises the quality. So that's my take on it.
Tejas.
I think I can only say one thing. Challenges are there. It's going to be there. Even if you are not, the challenges will be there. The only solution is be proactive and be collaborative. That's the only way you can drive forward.
Sugeet.
Yeah, just to reiterate finally, right, coming to the poll you had shown, of course, both elements, dimensions are important. Compliance will always be important in pharma. Cost, of course, we also have to take care of bottom line. And in order to do that on these, we have to collaborate. Of course, work on certain topics, like Sir gave a important message that, right, remove the speculation out right now in the pricing. So considering a combination, but again, the need of the hour is strong collaboration amongst all partners in the value chain.
Thank you. Anil.
So India is doing very well as a pharma, exports. We should continue with that. There will be teething problems, but I think we have to be ready, as mentioned by Tejas, and we should assume certain things, and we should collaborate and exchange wherever the chance comes. Need not be only at the time of forums. I think that will help us.
Okay, thank you. We started talking about the cost, but we ended up also talking about how we can balance cost with humanity or sustainability. Interesting conversation. Please have this conversation moving on. You can have this discussion moving on during the lunch networking break. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this panel. Thank you so much for being part of GPLS. Thank you.